What is going on, OG55 family? Dude, this is crazy. OG55 Live. We're talking about Bob Iger returning to the Walt Disney Company. Chapek is out. Chapek has been fired. We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. We're going to take your super chats, your comments, your questions. This is going to be a fantastic show, y'all. Up next on OG55. All right. So we're all the way live. But before we start the festivities, let's go ahead and get the party started here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
to all who come to this happy place,
welcome to Orange Grove 55.
And then one more to make it official because we're doing it live.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
There we go. We have officially begun. Dre, Dr. Dre, Fast Guy, Producer Dre, the DA, host of the Freshly Squeezed Show here on the channel. Welcome back, my man. How are you today, sir?
Man, doing pretty good. This has been an eventful day. I have spent a whole morning, literally since like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock when I got up, Arizona time, until now, which is like 6:48 on our time, just doing this, just researching this. And that was over the night before of watching live streams, both VR, WW Pro, and Braden. Got to, experience basically 90% of Braden's stream, hour and 20 minutes, and like a good chunk of VR stream last night. So I've been absorbing as much as I can for all of you today. Hopefully I have as many answers. Hopefully this is a wonderful discussion with a lot of robust discussion as a very interesting player in this game, Christine Wastelands McCarthy, would say. Oh, gee, you got my drop.
I got your drop. Walt, take it away, buddy.
And there's the biggest bargain of all.
The biggest bargain of all indeed, which you can find here at Orange Grove 55, where I'll be there at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Walt, what do you have to say?
And the hard facts.
Those are the hard facts. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. We got 55 people watching. OG55 with 55 people. I like that. Down below, Mr. Family Man 23 rocking the hat. Welcome back.
Welcome back, brother. Me. Thanks for having me. And this conversation is it's gonna blow the roof because there's like so much to talk about, and I don't know where to begin. Just so much.
There we go.
Off the walls already.
But
yes.
if you want to find me, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. If you want to interact with me, you could do so on Twitter at Disney George for as long as my account is still open. You could also find me on A Walk with Walt podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all that good stuff. And of course, you'll find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
There it is.
All right, let's rock and roll. Dre, you want to set the table for us before?
I will.
Right,
so yesterday, I was enjoying football with the fam, trying to get my day set so that I have we had planned this show, guys, before any of this even happened. So I was trying to get my plan situated so that, everything would be open, free, all good. And I was like, okay, we're doing good. Everything's going nicely. And then at about 6 o'clock last night, the phone starts ringing. The phone starts going. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I take up my phone and wow. I'm sorry, what? Chapek out, Iger in? What is going on here? Am I being punked? Is this a hack? Which apparently a lot of Disney executives felt the same thing, actually, while they were attending the Elton John concert on Disney+. A lot of them were reading emails and saying, is this a joke? Is this a hack? What is this? Well, it turns out that effective immediately, Walt Disney executives stage revolt against ousted chief Bob Chapek. Yes, Bob Chapek is out, and Bob Iger is back in. And I'm sure you guys have seen the memo that he sent out, that details will be forthcoming and so forth. So I won't rehash that. But now we know, every single trade basically turns to their sources and goes, what the hell is going on? How did this actually happen? And as we have heard about it throughout today, it seems that a number of executives, including Christine Wastelands McCarthy herself, went to the board and, they had a vote of no confidence for Bob Chapek at the helm. And apparently, Chapek maybe even knew about it, but maybe didn't strike fast enough in order to prevent his ouster one last time. Your luck does run out, and it looks like Chapek's time did run out. So what we wanted to do with this show is kind of break down what we've heard after we all were alerted to it last night, basically at the last minute here. This kind of surprise announcement that blindsided not just the industry, the press, but also people inside Disney, and also go over what's happened there, and how this may have occurred and what this means actually going forward. So, OG George, what happened? I mean, how did you guys hear about it? First off,
I was actually at a Friendsgiving dinner, and a friend of mine texted me saying that Bob Iger is in and Chapek is out. I'm like, there's no way. There's no fucking way. This is crazy. And then after that, all the texts followed. And I was like, this is crazy. I checked Deadline. It was on Deadline. It was on all the Hollywood trades. Unbelievable. Sunday night drop. We've never seen anything like this. And this is actually interesting because, and we'll get into it, but apparently this all happened pretty fast. I think it kind of started on Friday night, and then by Saturday night they voted on it and he was gone. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah. And I've been trying to say all day, the act itself took place very, very quickly, very, very fast.
Right.
But I think this has been in the works for a while.
Right.
Which is a good distinction, which we'll get into. But George, how did you learn about it? What happened?
Well, I was taking a late night shower when my phone started going off, and
3 hour time difference phones. That's why.
Yeah. So it was like 10. It was 10 p.m. my time around, and that's pretty much why I'm wearing the hat, because I probably still have the conditioner that was still setting in my head, because I saw the notification, because I keep my phone by me, just in case of anything. And anytime I see breaking news Disney, and I thought, oh gosh, what now? What could possibly go on now? It has to be, when it says breaking news, it's something significant. Well, right. That's pretty much a small order to tell. But as I started reading it, Bob Chapek out, Bob Iger in, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. And then as I'm reading it, and I thought, well, I'll just check. And as OG said, I mean, it was on all big time news stations, linked everywhere, in articles. It was on reliable sources from people on social media. And I thought, oh, gee, this is legit. And I thought what was so surprising to me is, first of all, the time, second of all, the day, effective immediately. And the part that didn't too much surprise me was because of the quarterly earnings, because we all talked about it on the channel that, that would be Chapek's nail in the coffin. When the numbers don't bring up to par, that's going to be his Achilles heel. But what's most surprising is Iger stepping back forth into the hot seat.
Right.
Yeah. No, this whole thing. And then, Justin Doyle is absolutely right. His firing out of the blue, something major happened for the board to meet on a Sunday and fire him on a Sunday night. Look, here's the thing, Justin. It's from what we're hearing, and this is a very fluid situation right now, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of reports are coming in, but from what we're understanding here is that the quarterly earnings were pretty bad, but the board didn't really like how Chapek handled kind of like the aftermath of that quarterly earnings and the explanation of those numbers, and then trying to like go after Christine Wastelands McCarthy, trying to throw her under the bus. It was just a series of events and blunders that Chapek made that ultimately led to them voting him out. Because look, most CEOs do not get voted out. Most CEOs do not get voted out off of one bad quarter. That's extremely rare. And so there was like, it was bubbling, and then he shot himself in the foot, and they axed him. They got rid of him.
So let's go into why this may have happened and why I say the action itself took place very, very quickly, but the undercurrent to make all this change possible had been in motion for quite some time. Senior Walt Disney executives led a rebellion against Chief Executive Bob Chapek in recent weeks, which resulted in his ousting and replacement with predecessor Bob Iger, according to people familiar with the matter. To the covert campaign to overthrow Chapek, which began in the summer, came after the outgoing chief executive lost the confidence of some members of his top team during a tumultuous 33 months at the helm of the media empire. So we know, this is Financial Times, by the way, we know that this has been brewing for quite some time, but Puck actually, he adds a little additional layer from Iger's perspective as well, which is why the two, I think, are very interrelated. So this is via Matthew Bellany, and he says this. Let's see. First, a number of readers asked if I knew what was brewing when I wrote on Thursday about Iger's persistent trash-talking of Chapek in private and how the company's recent stock slide had played into Iger's criticisms. Alas, I did not. And in fact, I've been chatting with a few Disney executives this weekend on another topic, and they had no idea what was up. The top people were told just before the press release, which is true.
Wow.
But I knew something was off. Think about it. Iger's sentiments kept coming back to me via friends and associates, months after one would think that even he would move on with his new endeavors. So he clearly saw a lane. Plus, as I revealed Thursday, he was taking meetings with investor groups, something more often reserved for executives whose companies, have investors. I didn't mention it on Thursday, but Iger was also at a conference in Miami this month chatting up shareholders and others. If he didn't already know what was afoot, and one Disney insider told me tonight that the whole plan likely came together in the past 10 days after the disastrous earnings call on November 8th, even though the board had been antsy since investor Dave Loeb started questioning the strategy this summer, he was certainly acting like someone who was coming back to something.
That's interesting.
It's actually funny because I have a reliable source that told me that Iger's company phone and email was reactivated on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I think I know your sources there, George. Trust me, guys. He knows. He knows. Okay. That is really interesting. I mean, the leadership web portal was updated on Sunday night. Iger updating his Twitter profile this morning. These things happen fast. These things happen really fast. And see, this is the interesting thing. We had this conversation a little bit pregame here.
Yeah.
The question is why Iger would come back. Because to me, Iger's never been motivated by money. Ever. That's not really been his shtick, let's say.
And he's getting paid, from what I understand, he's not getting paid as much to come back, right?
Yes, and that's why I wasn't surprised by that news, because that wasn't his reasoning. I knew it wasn't money. So that just leaves, two things. Legacy, obviously, and it has been tarnished. Let's not get it twisted.
Right.
Now, I think Hollywood types all look at him very fondly, especially as the heart grows fonder when certain elements are missing, right? So I think Iger's legacy within the Hollywood circles has only grown, but investors, fans, I think it's definitely taken a hit. Maybe even people on the inside of Disney, right? So his legacy was definitely being tarnished. We know that for a fact. And I think the thing that kept bubbling up was succession. Even, Puck writes here, that is absolutely the case. And I do believe that's correct. But also his handling, let's say, his just completely abandoning Disney at a time when they need them most. That's obviously that comes into its own as well. Fox
that
and
pissed me
everything
off.
like that. Right?
That pissed me off, and I got a comment yesterday, I think, from somebody saying like, "Oh, Chapek got fired. Don't you feel silly now?" No, I don't feel silly. I stand by every single criticism I made against Bob Iger. Firing Chapek has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. And
Bob Iger still overspent on Fox. He still left Disney high and dry and handed it to Chapek right before the lockdowns. I will never forgive him for that stuff. I'm sorry.
And I'm going to continue off of that, OG, and that's actually what I'm going to say. Anybody who would have been put in the position that Chapek was put in at the start of the pandy when the shutdown was happening, do not tell me that nobody would have had a rocky start to be put in as a CEO position from that point in time, that nobody knew what the hell was going on and how things were going to get handled and what the outcome was going to be. Whether it was Chapek, whether it was Iger, hell, whether it was Eisner, who it could have been Walt himself. It would have been a rocky position just to be thrown into the wolves' den.
Right.
And now that things started, I can't say calm down, but the way how things started kind of reopened back up with the parks and what have you, the studios started producing films for the theaters and what have you. It's starting to show then that we really needed Chapek, I feel personally, in that moment, because he's a numbers guy. I think really he was, I hate to say that, the best of the worst that could have got us out of that block frame.
Right.
And now I think that time is finished, and I think the board was correct in letting him go during this time.
Yeah, and with that said, look, I have criticisms of Bob Iger, and that doesn't change with Chapek being fired. But I also acknowledge the man did a lot of great things for the Walt Disney Company. And here's the thing, Iger's back now. Iger acknowledged, I don't remember what interview it was exactly. He was sitting in Galaxy's Edge. He acknowledged one of the bigger regrets he had was his going all in on China. Okay, that's good. I think that's one of my issues I had with Bob Iger was his kind of all-in mentality with China. Now that's kind of becoming a problem. So I respect and appreciate the fact that Bob Iger sees that as an issue. Hopefully he rectifies that now as best he can. But this is a real opportunity for Bob Iger. You know, it's like second chances, man. It's like, you ever have one of those moments in life where you're like, man, I wish I can go back in time and do it differently. Well, Bob Iger is getting that chance right now. Let's hope he seizes that moment. He can do his succession all over again and do it right this time. And he can really go in there with the stuff that he didn't really like too much the first time and go in there and try his best to kind of fix it. It's a real opportunity. I hope Bob Iger, and I think he will, take the bull by the horns. What do you think, Dre?
To button up the Chapek a little bit before getting into Iger, just real fast, I think Chapek's biggest problem, and we talked about it multiple times in the show, we talked about it over and over again, and he just never did it. He's got to clean house. He's got to get rid of the Iger loyalists. You were never going to convert them. This is the big mistake that a lot of these kind of individuals make. Oh, if I just make concessions, if I just get them like me, they'll be on my side. And it's like, that was never, ever going to happen. You need to get rid of these guys. What was the motivation for them to post up quarterly earnings reports that were in your favor? Not much. There was incentives actually against it. And once they understood that his power really derived from those quarterly earnings reports, it was only a matter of time, and that was never going to be sustainable. It was quarter after quarter after quarter trying to pump up the numbers as best they could, and that was never going to be a long-term strategy, especially in light of 2022 Q1 being such a banger that it was. They were doing probably everything they possibly could to get Q1 2023 to be even better. And I don't know if that was going to happen. We saw that a little bit with AP sales returning and so forth. That was something that was a very surprise move. And this kind of herky-jerky kind of thing. Puck even talks about it. OG, you alluded to it, where he was now finally going to clean house after a bad quarter. I mean, it's like, bro, you should have done that a year ago, maybe even two. It's too late now, and that was the big issue.
Well, and some people, and Braden, our friend from Mickey Views, he made a fantastic live stream on this actually last night, and he made a great point about Iger and Chapek, and I agree with him on this. He said Iger understands the Disney brand or the product more, and I agree with him on that, and he has more vision. Again, I agree with him on that. Chapek is much more of a kind of like operations kind of guy. some people have that leadership thing and some people don't. Not that Chapek is necessarily like I'm not saying he's stupid or he's incompetent, nothing like that. I'm just saying that like some people have what it takes to sit on the throne, and some people don't have that. Some people are just kind of meant for middle management, and that's Chapes, you know.
The charisma. Iger has the charisma, and he knows how to schmooze people.
He does, and he has that vision. Like if you look at the vision thing, right? Like Iger had like a real vision
things
for the company, right? Like he was doing these acquisitions and kind of crafting this Walt Disney Company that we've never seen before, where everything from Bob Chapek, his vision was like, oh wow, well if you watch Pirates of the Caribbean on Disney Plus, or if you ride the ride at the parks, they'll like recommend it to you on the Disney Plus app or something. It's like stupid shit like that. It doesn't really, that's not real vision. That's kind of gimmicky stuff. And again, Braden from Mickey Views mentioned that, and I agree with him on that. So there's a real vision issue here. So anyway, I think it's fascinating.
He'll get that blood from that stone. And I kept saying this over and over again. Is he my choice for CEO? No. But for the time, one of the best guys for the job.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
But he wasn't going to give you long, sustained success. He wasn't going to give you a vision and a path forward. You know, he was going to get blood from that stone, but he wasn't necessarily going to toss new stones into the lake.
No, he wasn't.
That was kind of the different thing there. And, you know, it caught up to him, and he could have written it out longer. I think it was just a series of poor mistakes. I'll read you one more little paragraph here. On the Chapek side, as much negative press as the recent poor earnings call generated, I kept hearing that it was his handling of the call and its aftermath that was really questioned internally by the board. Not just the tone-deaf stuff like talking up Oogie Boogie Bash at Disneyland as analysts were staring mouths agape at the $1.5 billion loss in streaming. I mean, how clueless was that, man? It's just wild. It was the management and judgment stuff. Like if the costs, cuts, and layoffs that Chapek announced last Friday were warranted by the worsening fundamentals of the business, why didn't he mention them until after the earnings call led to a 13% stock drop? It's an issue. It seems so knee-jerk and defensive, and I'm told that Disney's HR group didn't even know that Chapek was going to mention the layoffs in the memo to division leaders announcing his cost-cutting, quote, task force, a move that predictably sounded alarm bells internally and created chaos for them.
See, that's just mismanagement. Yeah, it's too much. It's mismanagement. Now, real quick before we continue,
Please.
Theme Park Wizard, Ethan, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. Ethan comes in with a $25 donation to the channel. Thank you so much, brother. And by the way, Theme Park Wizard has a fantastic channel. He's really, if you're into Universal, this is your guy, man. He really deep dives into like the Super Nintendo world, the construction. He's got all kinds of scoops. Fantastic YouTube channel. But he says here, keep up the deep dive analysis. #1 on YouTube for deep dive Disney content. Thank you so much, Ethan. Thank you so much, bro.
Well, Ethan, definitely keep an eye out because Chapes now needs a job, so he may have to come over to Universal.
Right? Yeah, maybe. Oh man, Universal fans.
Hey, that's possible. George, you gave him ideas there.
Yeah. I don't know how Universal fans will feel about that one. Keep them away from Universal. That's interesting.
Right?
That's interesting.
This
is fascinating, though, Dre. What you're talking about, how it's the reaction to the quarterly earnings, not necessarily the numbers themselves. Fascinating.
Yes. Yeah, how stories work with Jay Shear. Iger's new book, How to Execute a Coup. Yeah, that's that's definitely something. I mean, look, the Chapek's, I mean, it was all quarterly driven, you know, and it's just, that's not sustainable, man. You get into that mode, and I think Iger himself said it, where it's like, you shouldn't be, you know, let's say stock price driven, right? In your decision making, you should
data driven.
Yeah, you know, but Chapek kind of got on that train, and he could never come off of it. And then once, I mean, he lost Hollywood right from the jump, and the CAA, Scarlett Johansson, that put the kibosh on that, let's say. But after he lost Hollywood, all he had was Wall Street, and then when he lost Wall Street, he didn't have anybody. So that's kind of how that was facilitated right there. But the eventual, I mean, through today's events, not only did we learn that Christine Wastelands McCarthy, along with others, and I think Orange Grove, I think you have some information on that, where there were other executives who might have approached the board and were looking for a change. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I'm a fan. I've made no bones about it. I'm a fan of John Campea.
God, I sound like a Bob Iger dick rider.
And thank you, John, for the wonderful sound bite. but I am a fan of the John Campea show. I really enjoy his content, and he has sources. This guy has sources, absolutely. And what he's hearing is that 3 studio execs, one from Disney Studios, the head of Disney Studios that makes like the live action remakes and what have you. I think it's Sean Bailey, Kevin Feige, and the head of Pixar. Okay, Pete Docter. Basically went to was it the board, I believe, and said, "Look, this isn't working out for us," and kind of made an ultimatum where it's like, "Hey,"
especially Feige. Feige made a major statement with that, and I think that was like that got the ball rolling with the questioning.
Well, and Feige, and I've been saying this for a long time. When once Feige is unhappy, that's when Chapek's job is really in jeopardy. And from what we're hearing, from what Campea is saying, Feige was not happy. Remember what Feige did to Pearl Mutter?
Yeah.
I mean, he can. I mean, so you don't mess with Feige. You do not mess with Kevin Feige.
He was a major shareholder as well.
Right.
And the way that all happened, I mean, Iger, and as he's reemphasized today, it's very creatively driven. Everybody knows, I think, Feige's what he brings to the table, his asset to the company, right? And he's part of this synergistic machine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Without Feige, that thing doesn't click quite in the same way. And so when he was threatening, I think they had enough around them, especially Christine Wastelands McCarthy, which we're hearing that apparently Chapek was going to put the quarterly earnings reports or the future rough times ahead on her shoulders in a very similar manner that he might have done to a previous executive as part of the opening for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Oh, that's not good. Christine Powell, is that right?
Yep, Christine Powell. Chapek basically, this happened like not too long after Galaxy's Edge opened. And if you guys at home remember, when Galaxy's Edge first opened, it only had the Millennium Falcon attraction. So the attendance was kind of, a little light, and it was out there in the media and everything. And Chapek threw Catherine Powell under the bus. He tried to do the same shit to Christine Wastelands McCarthy.
She didn't have it.
She wasn't having it. She threw him right back under that bus. Said, "You know what?" Like
she was watching out for her own waistline and had a lever herself that she could pull.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the thing. Like it's not her first rodeo. She's a very savvy businesswoman. Regardless,
she's like, I'm giving you a salad. I'm taking my fucking steak.
Exactly. So it backfired on Chapek. And this is honestly
Iger loyalist.
Right? Yeah, she's been CFO for a long time, long before Chapek took over. So interesting.
Sorry, go ahead, OG.
No, I was going to say, I just think that's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And Chapek kind of has a history of doing this kind of thing. He'll pick a target and kind of throw them under the bus to kind of dodge the blame. And this time it just didn't work. It just did not work. And he got.
He got got. But Chapek wasn't the only one. The heads have started to roll.
Before we do that, because this is going to be juicy.
Okay. Cool.
I just want to acknowledge Marty Snyder, friend of the channel, says, love the conversation, guys. Well, Marty, we love you for being here. We absolutely appreciate your support. Thank you so much, Marty. Marty's a great guy. I talk to him on Twitter all the time and always have a good time talking to Marty. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Marty.
Teamwork Wizard, both of you. Marty, thank you a lot for supporting the channel. This was
absolutely.
This is definitely it's a lot of research. There's a lot of stuff that happened today. But Chapek wasn't the only one that got. Again, we kind of were thinking like right off jump. I remember having this conversation with the OG when this happened. It was like, okay, well, Chapek's not the only one. It's got to be Chapek's inner circle as well. All of his loyalists, Iger's not going to make the same mistake. He's going to get rid of them as well. So who's first on the list? Well, it has to be Kareem Daniels, which the Hollywood Reporter just has a article about this right now. Kareem Daniels, who exits Disney as Bob Iger unwinds the Chapek era structure. Why the expected move comes as Iger takes back the reins from Chapek with the directive to, quote, set the strategic direction for renewed growth. And we will talk about that as well. What the board is looking for with Iger's term, his 2-year term here. as well as to help develop and find new successor during his 2-year term. Wall Street analysts and company watchers had been expecting a reorganization of the company's media and entertainment division as Iger seeks to reshape the company's streaming strategy and return to a structure that prioritizes greater decision-making by creatives. So,
this was
go ahead.
Kareem Daniels. This was a move that Chapek made, I believe, in October of 2020, if I'm not mistaken, where he kind of restructured the way the studio kind of like distributes its films. And Kareem was really like the point guy for all of it. He decided, or his team decided where it went, whether it went theatrical, whether it went D+, Hulu, he decided. And Hollywood despised this. I mean,
him.
Oh, they did him. Like, this is what triggered the entire thing with the trades, kind of going after Bob Chapek. What was this move? And I was talking to Dre about this on the phone earlier today, saying this is one of the first things that Iger's going to do is undo this whole thing.
Yes,
because Hollywood and Bob Iger, I think, even said as much too. They do not like this structure. What they did with this, and they're gonna completely dismantle this. And the first step to that is cutting the head off the snake, which is Kareem Daniel, unfortunately. And I feel bad. I mean, it's not really Kareem's fault. You know, I'm sure he's a great guy, but he ran the division. It's not show friends, it's show business. And you know what? And Kareem, on top of running this department, this role that Hollywood and Iger didn't really love, he's also very closely tied to Bob Chapek. Can't have it.
This is why I tweeted out some song lyrics, which I see Casual and our dear friend of the channel, both Casual actually, and also Captain John D. astutely pointed out. You take a mortal man, you put him in control, you watch him become a god, and you watch the heads roll. And that's exactly what happened here. Kareem Daniel is the first, probably of a few that will be coming. And OG, just by the way, did we get approval to go on the record on some of these things?
No, I'll just say this. I'll keep it really vague.
Sure.
I got a text message from a pretty reliable source who is saying that Josh D'Amaro has already gotten the pink slip. I don't know how true that is, but this person has been pretty reliable in the past, and it would make sense. And it would make sense because, number one, D'Amaro, even though he's been there a while, has really hitched his wagon to the Chapek train, so to speak. I mean, he got real cozy with Chapes, you know, and he was the first promotion when Chapek got the CEO gig. Within 6 months, it was Daddy Josh who got promoted. But aside from that, Iger is a optics guy. He cares about image. He wants to please fans and kind of throw a little red meat out the gate, like he did when he first became CEO, when he got Oswald back, our beloved Oswald, right? And he bought Pixar. This is what Iger does immediately to kind of get that goodwill. Well, what better thing can Iger do than to get rid of the reservation system? Now, if you're going to get rid of the reservation system, you're going to have to get rid of the front man, the face of that system, which is Daddy Josh right now. I'm telling you, and a lot of people are not talking about this. I really do believe tomorrow, if he hasn't already, is on the chopping block. He will probably get let go. Go ahead, Dre.
Which, by the way, I think Ghost Hoffa even said, he's like, Josh D'Amaro is not well liked internally as he is externally, which was very interesting, very astute observation from Ghost Hoffa, which I do believe is correct, because think about it. What was
I'm sorry, Drake, to confirm your statement, my other source, which is a different source from Ghost Hoffa, actually said the same exact thing.
About Daddy Josh?
About Daddy Josh.
I'm telling you, there's something going on with him. What
was the most divisive, most, what is it? What do I want to say? Highly criticized move, especially now that we're hearing all the criticized, all the moves that were controversial under Chapek's leadership. What was the most divisive move that Josh D'Amaro himself delivered to the Imagineers? That they were moving to Lake Nona, right? He was the guy who did that, not Chapek, right? Now, obviously, it was Chapek mandated, of course, but Josh was the guy that delivered the letter. And I think it is reasonable to surmise that he has not been liked well by WDI, who has a lot of pull, let's say, right?
Right.
Now, frontline cast members, us people as fans, look, I have not been, I've not been a Giamaro fanboy. Okay, let's say, and I've been leading the charge against this guy. However, okay, a lot of the fans like him. A lot of the frontline cast members like him, but he's a pretty face that's delivered a lot of bad news to a lot of folks, including those fans that like him so much in the form of the reservation system, Genie Plus, and all that. So, again, some people were saying, well, this would be, this is not a good move here. It would indenture bad will. Not if you announce it with, oh yeah, a lot of those initiatives that he himself championed, those are gone as well. That's the key right there.
That's the key. And here's the other thing too with the Lake Nona thing, and I think that's in jeopardy right now. And why I say that is because Bob Iger, he's trying to kind of mend relationships again because morale is really low at the company, right? Well, you couldn't get more low morale than in Imagineering. A lot of them didn't want to move to Florida. Now, look, I personally think a lot of that was a little overblown. Okay, it's freaking Florida. Florida's beautiful. What the hell? But hey, I'm not an Imagineer. But a lot of the Imagineers, with all due respect, did not want to move to Florida.
Yeah. And a lot of them resigned because of that notion.
Exactly.
Because
as many as 90%.
And literally, that's the sticky situation right there. When you actually have the chairman of parks that is running WDI in a sense, and then you have the people working in WDI that doesn't agree with the chairman. I mean, that's a clash right there. And that's pretty much why WDI is suffering right now, which I think a lot of projects are either on hold or not waiting for the green light when they're in yellow because no one really knows where their headquarters is going to be.
Bob Iger would look like within a minute would look like a hero to Imagineering if you say, you know what, we're keeping the jobs here in Glendale. He just would. Majority of them do not want to move.
Oh my gosh.
He would look like a hero almost immediately. And from what I understand, I'm hearing that they haven't even broken ground really. They haven't really done, it's been like a lot of land clearing, but no actual building on that Lake Nona facility. I don't know. I think that Lake Nona thing, and I'm not, look, sometimes I make predictions and then people come at me like, oh, you are wrong, OG. Yeah, I'm wrong. I'm going to give you my opinion, right? Of course. But in my opinion, I think it's definitely iffy right now with Lake Nona. Not confirmed. I'm not going to say they're going to full blown cancel. I don't know yet, but man, it's not looking good. And with Iger there now.
But I do have to say, and the biggest notion that DeMauro could be going under the bus with Chapek right now, the most important thing of all, that his lightsaber is now on eBay. So just saying.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
The one that he polished so much. Yeah, that one.
Oh man. Oh boy. If you guys know that video that we're talking about, there you go, right? Lorena Creel. Nothing going on at the Lake Nona site.
First of all, friend of the channel, and we're actually going to be on her show tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
5 o'clock, Lorena, I believe, is when the video premieres. Fantastic conversation. Lorena's awesome. We love Lorena. Subscribe to her for sure. But she lives only 15 minutes from the site, and she's saying nothing is going on at the Lake Nona site right now. Nada.
Yeah, I think I think there was a blowback that maybe they didn't they didn't quite anticipate, and they put the kibosh on that real quick. But it didn't, even if they were going to renege on Lake Nona, the damage has already been done. And I think that's why they didn't bother going public with it or whatever. Theme Park Casual, friend of the channel.
We love you, Casual. Casual here with a $5 donation to the channel. Thank you so much, brother. And again, another content creator who makes fantastic content, especially if you're into like Knott's Berry Farm out here in California. Casual is your guy. He makes phenomenal content with Knott's and Disney and Universal, all of it really. But he says for the best, robust, balls to the wall, blown gasket discussion on YouTube. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. You are a friend of the channel. We love you so much, Casual. Thank you. Thank you.
Did he say
robust
and balls to the walls? There you go.
He did. He absolutely did. He did. But this is fascinating. I really do believe, and again, I could be wrong, but I think DeMauro is definitely he's on that list to be let go if he hasn't been already, I think.
Yeah, no, I think D'Amaro is absolutely on that list. I think a lot of Imagineers who have a lot of pull, and this is why I wanted to get to this memo here, because we can get into the mind of where this might actually go here. You see, the Lake Nona move was motivated by revenue, profit, right, or potential losses in the form of taxes and so forth. What is it? Motivation is the master of reason, not reason the master of motivation. What is Iger's motivation? Well, right now we know for a fact that it's legacy. It's going to be legacy driven here, right? And so he's not motivated by money. And because of that,
the guy's a bajillionaire already. He doesn't care.
Exactly. And he's not necessarily motivated by, nickels and dimes, maybe like Chapek might be, right? So for him, it's like, we'll take the loss, at least for the next 2 years, and we'll keep Imagineering here, and I'll be made the hero. And I do think that might be a reality. And again, another Josh D'Amaro initiative, mandated by Chapek, let's say, but another one that he delivered that would be axed if he were to axe him. So I think that's very interesting.
Do they still have the money kind of set in limbo if it was true, the money that was supposed to go for the parks that they were claiming that they had? What was it, 36? No, not 36. I'm sorry. 6, was it 6 bill?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. What happened to that $6 billion? That's probably been blown already.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's a lot of. I think a lot of that changed.
Yeah.
When this new earnings call, when this new earnings report came out, and that they were going to be shifting some funds around, at least to the content creative side. But I want to go ahead and read you this first, real fast.
Go ahead.
Because this is interesting, and it deals with money as well. And maybe what Chapek was talking about, maybe he wasn't so far off. Here we go. Dear DMED, this is the Disney Media and Entertainment Division, or Entertainment Distribution, I think. Okay, anyway. As we embark on the transformative work that I mentioned to you in my email last night, this is from Iger, right? Obviously, people heard from him last night, and now this is a new email that just came out just hours ago. I want to begin by offering my sincere appreciation and gratitude to each and every one of you. Over the coming weeks, we will begin implementing organizational and operational changes within the company. Oh, yeah. It is my intention to restructure things in a way that honors and respects creativity as the heart and soul of who we are. It's classic Iger.
Right.
As you know, this is a time of enormous change and challenges in our industry, and our work will always focus on creating more efficient and cost-effective structure. That's interesting. We've not heard that from Iger before. I've asked Dana Walden, Alan Bergman, Jimmy Pitaro, and Christine Wastelands McCarthy, I added in the Wastelands, to work together on the design of a new structure that puts more decision-making back into the hands of our creative teams and rationalizes costs. Again, talking about the bottom line here. And this will necessitate a reorganization of Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution. As a result, Kareem Daniel will be leaving the company, and I hope you will all join me in thanking him for his many years of service to Disney.
Wow.
Our goal is to have the new structure in place in the coming months. Without question, elements of DMED will remain, but I fundamentally believe that storytelling is what fuels this entire company, and it belongs at the center of how we organize our businesses. This is a moment of great change and opportunity for our company as we begin our second century. And I am so proud to be leading this team again. I can't say it enough. I'm incredibly grateful for the tremendous work that you do each day and for your commitment to maintaining the level of excellence Disney has always been known for.
Interesting. Here's the thing, though. I will say this, and again, I've been very critical of Bob Iger with various elements of, like, really the last couple years of his tenure as CEO. That's where the bulk of my criticism kind of stems from. Mm-hmm. But I actually do trust him a little more when it comes to, like, he talks a lot about here being more efficient, the costs and all that. I honestly trust him a little more with that, doing that kind of like being in charge of that than like a Bob Chapek. You know what I'm saying?
I suppose, but how do you do that when you hand the keys off to creative again? You know, I mean, I think the real speculation here is that unlike Chapek, who kind of put it off to the bean counters to decide where content was going to go, how they were going to fund it, and so forth, this is really putting creatives first, like the structure that Iger kind of left Chapek with. So if he does that, how do you contain costs? It's very interesting.
That is.
and this is why I tell people, don't expect Iger to come back here and, oh, the good times are going again. They're still in survival mode here. So some of his decision making might be a little different this time around than before when, hey, everybody was thriving and having a good time.
Well, and you have to put your expectations in check. I saw the same thing when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Like, people were kind of getting out of control with that. Like, it was just like, oh man, he's going to do this and this and this and this. And it's like, look, and Twitter was definitely is still also in very much survival mode as well. But there's realities to these companies that they have to work around here, you know, and they're not gonna kind of like placate to every fan wish, you know, and that really does apply here at Disney. You know, people are thinking like, oh yeah, Iger's gonna just, you know, everything's gonna be cheaper and this and that. He's gonna get rid of Genie Plus and this, that, and the other. It's like, well, cool your jets a little bit. Probably not. Genie Plus is probably staying. It's making them money. You know, he might get rid of the reservation system. There's going to be good and bad in all of this, and fans really need to check their expectations. I think on this, and you're absolutely right, Dre. You know, you can't go in there and be like, you know, think this guy's gonna like basically, you know, solve every problem and it's gonna just be honky dory. There's gonna be some real tough decisions here, and it's not all on Disney necessarily. It's just the economic environment that we live in. You know, it's getting really rocky out there. I want to share this massive super chat, Captain John D. $50 donation to the channel. Captain, thank you so much for your generous donation, brother. We love you, Captain. Thank you so much. And he says, this is the discussion I've been waiting for since last night. Respect all the others, but this is where the juice is. I you know what? That's awesome. I like how you tied that into the Orange Grove, the juice.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah. That was clever, John. I like that. I appreciate your diligence and hard work on this topic. Trust in Iger. And the two little snake emojis. That's such a good touch. I love it.
Trust in me.
Yeah.
Trust in me. Yeah, exactly, dude. I do not trust Iger as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him far.
Well, you just did it, Trey. Now you just opened the floodgates for a bunch of memes.
Right.
Yeah, no.
But here's the thing, though. Actually, when Iger's legacy and Disney's well-being align, I trust Iger very much. Yeah. I will say that, because I think that right now it's in his best interest to kick it, to basically kick major ass and knock a home run. So he's going to make that happen, you know?
And I do want to bring something up as part of the continuing of the conversation. But OG, if you want to get the other
super chat.
Yeah,
I got it right here. And as I'm knocking my computer around, Ethan, Theme Park Wizard, with a $75 donation. Ethan, Jesus. Seriously, brother, thank you so much. And he says here, gotta fuel the research and the soundboards. Thank you. Honestly, Ethan, we're unbelievably humbled by this. Thank you.
Ethan, fuck the soundboards. I'm going to Carl's Jr.
Oh, man. He's not ordering off the value menu. He's getting the meals, man.
Yes.
Honestly, to both
Ethan.
Captain John D and Ethan at Theme Park Wizard and Casual and everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
This isn't possible without you. And not just the donos, which are unbelievably gracious, but y'all make this happen by, you know, sending us DMs, sending us messages, and, sharing out these shows on your various Twitter platforms and so forth, and doing all that and getting us research and information. I know Alia was essential to getting some of this research put together here. Jay offering some great additional commentary. Just Captain John D, everybody, thank you so much. No matter if you're doing it or not, y'all make this happen. And it's incredibly gracious and humbling.
In the words of the Green Aliens from the Toy Story franchise, you have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty. Like, honestly, and just not to get like kind of sappy right now, but this is the beauty of like this legacy that Walt left us, right? Because it's like we're all friends here. Everyone on this panel, everyone in the chat, we're all friends. We all have this one thing we love so much. From a guy who was born 121 years ago, he's brought us all together. It's a beautiful thing. It really, really is, and I just absolutely love it. And that's why we love Disney. And that's why we're rooting for Disney. We might not love Bob Iger. Maybe we have criticisms, but I am going to support Iger because he is running the company that I love dearly, and I'm going to root for his success. I'm going to be the biggest cheerleader. I want him to kick ass. I want him to do this because he's piloting my plane.
He's in the pilot chair again.
Right? He's the guy in the captain's seat. So of course I want him to do well, And I think I don't know. In my opinion, I'm cautiously optimistic. But
and the hard facts.
There you go.
Right. Exactly. The hard fact.
But
exactly.
if whoever is the CEO, whether you like them, whether you agree with them, when they succeed, the company succeeds. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want, so it's
right.
And this discussions help because again, as we constantly say, you voice your opinion, you get all the facts out. And, if people really don't vote with their wallet, try to vote, vocally, if you decide to, you still got to go to the parks guilty, I still have my opinions, but you'll still find me in the parks. So
yeah. Drunk Tripio, I think he stumbled on the wrong channel here. So, sorry about that, man. But hey, while you're here, freaking awesome. So glad you're here, sir. Good.
Yes. Drunk 3PO. Thank you for stopping by, Jay. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to touch upon going off the conversation as we were talking about Iger, not making big moves necessarily right away with the expectations. Now, OG, you had mentioned about the reservation system. You mentioned about Genie Plus, but there is one topic that I would like to talk about, and I think this can kind of go either way, and I think it would probably be on everybody's minds, and that is the annual pass and magic key system. Because in my opinion, I think that is one crucial element that Iger has to kind of address right away.
I think so. OG alluded to it before. Iger likes to make the big splash. Think about when he steps into the role right from jump, right? OG, you said it, right? What does he do? He buys Pixar, he approves DCA 2.0, and he buys Oswald, right? Right from jump.
Boom.
We have to think that he's going to ingratiate himself with fans again and really signal to everybody that this is a new regime, right? That this is new ownership, new management. What better way to do that than to get rid of Josh Giamaro and to get rid of some of the initiatives that he championed, which would be park pass reservations, right? The reservation system, renew, or resell annual passes again, and maybe rebrand or retinker Genie Plus in a system that kind of works out for everybody, not just for the people who buy it, but also for the people who don't.
Well,
it's possible.
It's possible. And Bob Iger, remember when they had that big retreat at the Walt Disney Company? This is when Iger was kind of sunsetting his tenure and Chapek was coming in there, that big retreat. And he was kind of throwing a little bit of shade over at Chapek saying you can't rely on data. The reservation system is all about the data. This is anti-Bob Iger. I really do believe Iger is not going to be all in on this reservation system like Bobby Chapes was. And he's probably going to get rid of that. And remember, it was under Bob Iger that really opened up the annual passes with the monthly payment program.
Mm-hmm.
Iger has a completely different philosophy when it comes to these annual passes than Bob Chapek.
Yes.
So I agree with you, George. I think big changes are afoot when it comes to that. I think it's going to be maybe kind of back to how it used to be a little bit.
And here's the thing. The reservation system, it builds its own demand. It's kind of like the Indy effect, right? Indiana Jones never used to, when they implemented that kind of test program. Do you remember that? I think it was like a year ago now or so, right? With this kind of, they had where you can book like a boarding pass for Indiana Jones, but if you didn't get to go on it that day, right? And it just sold out like immediately, right? It generated its own demand. Well, when you have an annual pass holder program where you have to put in reservations to even visit, right? A lot of people are going to jump, they're going to make reservations all the time, and then you're stuck with them if you don't actually cancel them beforehand. You got people sitting and all that, squatting, I should say. It creates its own fundamental problems. For what? For more demand, for more revenue? Again, motivation, master of reason, not reason, master of motivation, right? Yep. Iger's motivation is not to just suck out every single dollar and all that kind of stuff. He's there to be liked. by both fans and the Hollywood establishment as it exists. So what better way to do that than to open up the system for everybody and get rid of reservations entirely? I think that is absolutely plausible. And let's be honest here, the reservation system, it was more about dealing with cast member supply versus the insane demand that they witnessed back when the parks were first reopened. Well, we know that's sunsetting a little bit here. So now you have the perfect excuse to get rid of a system that you probably were going to get rid of eventually anyway.
Now, I'm assuming the cuts, the freezes, the layoffs, is that now on a hold because that was under Chapek, or is that still moving forward?
So the task force is obviously not going to be a thing anymore. I think it was Andy Gutierrez, Christian Way-Sons McCarthy, and Chapek that were going to head up that task force. Well, that's no longer going to happen. So in terms of that, I think it'll be maybe part of this reorganizational structure. We'll have that put in place. It's hard to say if cuts are still going to happen. I mean, obviously there's going to be restructuring, so cuts will probably be inevitable at some level. In terms of a hiring freeze, I mean, maybe it's possible. The entire industry. I mean, we just heard big cuts from Amazon, Walmart, Target,
everywhere.
Apple, right, everywhere. So, would Disney necessarily be victim to that? I think that they would, just because it's the economic realities of the situation, right?
And also keep in mind that like Chapek has kind of put an extra layer or even two of kind of like red tape bureaucracy into the Disney kind of structure. So maybe they can just lay off those layers of bureaucracy, those positions, and that might be almost enough to kind of offset whatever they need to do. I don't know. I mean, I don't have an MBA. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of, from what I understand, Chapek has really inserted a lot of kind of extra red tape in the equation. And maybe a lot of those positions will amount to enough where, it might save some of the frontline cast members at the parks, things like that. We just don't know. I don't know.
And he's alluding to, even in Disney Media and Entertainment division, or distribution, I should say, Iger's even alluding to cuts being made at that level, wherein maybe the organization, like this division itself, doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
Maybe it takes on a form that is, like what happened with Kevin Feige getting rid of Ike Perlmutter, where division heads, they speak to him, Iger himself, right? Report to him, I should say. And then they are much more in tune with their creative output in a way that they didn't have before under Chapek, as Chapek tried to reel that kind of stuff in. By the way, I have Arizona Cardinals are playing the San Francisco 49ers in Mexico City right now. So I have that kind of like just onto the side. I'm not actively watching it, but just kind of on the side. I didn't know that Avatar Way of Water was having a big old halftime thing right now.
That's interesting.
Kind of in a similar way that they did with Star Wars, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker back in the day. I didn't know that they were having that on ESPN Monday Night Football.
That's that synergy, synergy pinwheel that Chapek talked
flywheel,
about,
right? Yeah,
the flywheel.
Didn't know that.
But Tanuki91 here is saying, what do you think the reaction would be if Daddy Josh gets let go? Well, fans support that. If Chapek did that, there would be hell to pay. Here's the thing, Tanuki. The Daddy Josh thing is wearing thin on fans. I mean, I think that initially fans really fell in love with the guy because he is very personable. He seems like a great guy. He's very nice. Whenever you meet him in the parks, he's a very nice guy, very charismatic. But I think that's starting to wear on people because, and I've said it before, look, being in the parks every day or every week is fantastic. That's what he should be doing. But if that never translates to any tangible, real change, what's the point? It's just playtime for Josh, essentially. Because look, there's a lot of complaints right now at the Disney parks. And if he's in the parks every day and he goes back to his office and doesn't change a damn thing, then what good was being in the parks all day communicating with guests? It means nothing. It's just basically dicking around then, basically, at that point. I think fans are starting to notice that, and I think fans are getting really, really frustrated. A year and a half ago, I think fans would have been really, really upset if they would have let him go. Right now, I'm not so sure. And I really do believe he's I'm not sure he's going to make it. I really do believe that Iger might look at him and let him go.
I actually noticed it from physically, like being there at the D23 Expo. That's when I actually started kind of noticing it from fans, because everyone had this expectation of Josh coming out on the stage. It wasn't going to be Chapek. He was going to like give us this big time news, like between Disneyland, Walt Disney World, the cruise line. We got a little bit of information, but it just turned into this as a what if scenario. Oh, what if we did this? Could we do that? And everybody literally took to social media saying they were not expecting that at all, and they expected something much more. That is, to me, when I felt the fan community started turning on tomorrow.
100%. 100%.
Kevin John D would like this reference about tomorrow, just for a second. The veneers ring hollow when there's no substance behind there, right?
Exactly.
There hasn't been a lot of substantiation behind a lot of these moves that have amounted to, I think, a better guest experience. So a lot of people are kind of taking that out on Josh even recently. I think that's appropriate. But Drunk 3PO?
Yeah, Drunk 3PO down below says, kick Josh and Kennedy. And I agree with you, Jay. First of all, Kathleen Kennedy, I'm telling you, I used to defend Kathleen Kennedy. Okay. I used to defend her. I'm at the point now where it's like she should have been fired like 2 days ago.
Absolutely.
We need fresh blood at Lucasfilm. We need somebody. I personally, maybe I'll sound toxic for saying this.
Sure.
I think Jon Favreau should be the guy. I know we're replacing female Kennedy with the male, whatever. I know a lot of fans don't like that, but I think Favreau is the right person for that job.
And that's what it is. I'm sorry, and I'm probably going to get heat for this, but I'm going to go balls to the wall on it. For me, it doesn't go by the sex of the person. To me, it goes by who can get the job done and do it right. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, 100%.
That's
100%. And it's just time. It's absolutely time. They need somebody new in there running that studio. And look, nobody is saying she's a bad producer, or at least I'm not. I'm not saying she's a bad producer. You can be a great producer, but you can really stink at running a studio. Just like, you can be a great basketball player, but you might not be the greatest coach. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here with Kathleen Kennedy. She needs to go. We talked earlier on this show about vision. She's got none when it comes to Star Wars. It's all over the place. It's basically, let's throw a bunch of crap on the wall, and whatever sticks, that's what we'll go with.
We'll drive
can I actually ask, does she even know what she's running? Like, has she ever even seen a Star Wars film? Or is she just going out there saying...
I keep saying this to everybody. She's not a fan. So I'm not saying that you absolutely must need a fan in order to run Lucasfilm, but what I am saying is you have to be at least in tune enough to know what fans want. She doesn't even know that. Yeah. You ask... I say it once, say it again. You ask Kevin Feige about the MCU, he'll tell you 6 ways to Sunday. You could ask him a direct question about Thanos' armor, and he'll give you the backstory and everything attached to it. And hey, maybe you might see that in a future MCU film. Who knows? Whatever. You ask Kennedy basic questions about Star Wars. She gives you the most generic, most just, non-specific answer that you can possibly get in order to obfuscate and it's like a politician's answer when they don't know anything, right? You know what it's like?
Dancing around it.
This might sound really bad.
Oh, do it.
I'm gonna. Oh man. Oh, we're gonna.
Yeah, he's got balls to the wall. He's got balls to the wall.
This is gonna. Okay. When Kamala Harris gives a speech sometimes and she doesn't quite know what she's talking about, so it's like the book report answer, right?
Yeah.
From a kid who hasn't read the book. That's the kind of answer that you get back from Kathleen Kennedy about Star Wars.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. You got to drop another balls to the wall on that one. You got to drop another one.
Oh, here, I got it. I got it for you. There you go. Now here's Slimer says here, DeMauro can go, CFO can go, Kathleen Kennedy can go, head of Pixar can go. Slimer is out here cleaning all kinds of house. Look at this. The whole team is gone. Everyone but Feige. But here's the thing about Feige too that I love. On Disney Plus, there is the Walt Disney Archive documentary or whatever. And this guy's a nerd, man. Like he was like talking about how much he loves like Mary Poppins and like the Disney parks animatronics. Like he well beyond Marvel. This guy is a true, like honestly, a diehard Disney fan. And ever since I saw that, I was like, okay, all right, Feige, I see you, man. I like you. I like you.
Oh, he is a diehard Disney fan. I mean, he is really kind of immersed into that world. I mean, he'll go on about the MCU and talk about it from a point of knowledge, right? When it comes to a lot of the MCU intricacies, right? But he'll also do that with like Disney stuff and really kind of deep dive into Disney stuff, give you some deep cuts and all that. It will surprise you. It is fascinating to watch.
No, 100% is. It 100% is. So this is interesting with this whole Bob Iger thing to kind of bring it back. Like, I don't know what to think, you guys. Like, do you? Okay, I'll start with you, Dre. I'm gonna start with you.
Sure.
So Iger's coming back, right? He's gonna set a new direction and find a new successor, right? He's got 2 years to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, where we stand, I know it's still really new. Where we stand right now, do you think he'll be successful? We'll start with the first thing. Do you think he'll be successful in kind of righting the ship? Do you think he can get Disney back on track to at least, maybe lowering costs, creating better content, all this? Do you think he can do that?
I think he can. I think he can lower costs in a way that only Iger could do, that would be accepted in a way that it just wouldn't be accepted with Chapek. Right. I think he's a good enough schmoozer. He's got a good enough rapport with the kind of media industrial complex or the Hollywood kind of
industrial
establishment,
complex?
right? Yeah. To facilitate, hey, we have to change our budgets and so forth to reflect a new market that we're in. Right? I think he could, because if Chapek does it, it's like the end of the world. This is horrible. Whereas if Iger does it, especially with the people that he may have linked up arms with in order to perform this coup takeover of the Walt Disney Company, he could do it in a way where people will say, "Oh, well, he's doing it for the success of the industry. He wants things back in the theaters. It's a great thing, and that's going to come with budget." Like, he can do that, and it be widely accepted, even if it's the same thing. So I think Iger might do that. Here are the biggest questions that I have, right? Oh, some more visuals from Avatar. Looks interesting. Okay. Sorry, this is kind of my thing. What happens with the budgets and that kind of reorganizational structure? I think that's a big open question, right? But beyond that, what happens with China? Right? I know he said it's cooled, but does Marvel, at the budgets that it had been consuming, right, to make that content, does that work without China? Right, without China's involvement, because that has been a big impediment into getting into those billion-dollar box office ranges that these the budgets for these films are really meant for, right? Some impressive visuals. Okay, so that's one. And by the way, Avatar, right? That's tracking like $135 million here. That's a little light, Now
that's kind of light for that. Yeah,
you can leg out there, but you really have to you really have to bring it there. A lot of these things are front loaded. We'll see what actually happens with that, but I think the budgets kind of have to get under control a little bit, right? Yeah. So what happens with that whole thing? What happens with WDI? And in the same vein as the studio, do you bring talent back that you may have lost because of Chapek? That's another interesting question here, and one that Chapek was either unwilling or didn't possess the ability to do that Iger uniquely is.
Well, and we're in a weird spot right now because a lot of the films that are being released are like they straddle. They're being released now, but they were kind of greenlit, like pre-Pandy and like stuff like that. So it's like we have this weird kind of thing going on where it's like we have like a movie budgeted for 2019 coming out now, right? And it's just and that's I think the
economics
issue.
Are not there.
They're not. Yeah, exactly. We live in a different world right now, so there's a there's a disconnect. So I think it'll be interesting to see how going forward, as we move further and further away from the pandy and more into this kind of hybrid theatrical streaming kind of world we live in, what those budgets look like. I think it'll be very, very interesting. George, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I concur what Dre was saying. I think right now there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and we're not going to get them all at once. I think it's basically a play by play, so to speak. And I think, rather than just say, "Oh, I definitely know he's going to succeed," or I could say he's definitely going to fail. I can't say either way because, I mean, up until last night, did we ever think we would even be having this conversation today?
No,
So, I know.
No.
Like anything can happen. Like tomorrow we can get breaking news saying that Bob Iger reeled back in Tom Staggs as his predecessor.
We will talk about that.
Yes.
We will, but we do have I have Bob Iger calling in the show. One sec. Here he has a comment about his plan to take over Disney.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
Here we go. Interesting.
It's a big get. It's a big get, OG. It's a big get. That's
Exclusive.
amazing.
Exclusive.
That's a shame. Those few years definitely aged him.
Yeah, it did.
He's got to get into peak form. Don't worry. He'll get there.
We'll get there. But down below, our buddy Drunk 3PO OG55 for president of the parks. Oh man, Drunk, that would be a dream job, man. That would be something else. Oh God, I would love that. And for our buddy Showcase in the chat, I'd bring back those Epcot dinosaurs, buddy. I'd bring them back. That'd be my first thing.
That's right. And you see, this is interesting. Showcase did have a comment earlier about the prospect of bringing back talent such as a certain controversial figure. And see, this is why I kind of think like, okay, well, he's the acquisition guy. A lot of people are saying like Netflix and some of these other kind of like Warner Brothers. It's like, dude,
come on,
throw that in the trash. That is not at all going to happen. Okay, listen.
It wouldn't get approved anyway, even if you wanted to do it.
Yes.
Even if they could do it, they're not going to approve him buying Warner Discovery. That would be way too big.
Anything is possible when we shouldn't discount anything, right? Netflix and Warner Brothers, you just throw that right in the trash. All right, but this guy's the acquisition king, and if we're tearing off a piece from the playbook, what did he do as soon as he walked in back last time? Right, he acquired Pixar.
Right.
What animation studio has key top talent that used to be part of Disney during its heyday, right? During the glory years of the Iger administration, who you could just acquire, that's been consolidated, and, bring about a wave not too dissimilar to what actually happened back in 2006, 2007.
Skydance.
Skydance animation. Exactly, OG. So I would not, I would discard Netflix, but I would not discard the idea and possibility of him acquiring a Skydance in order to infuse that talent.
And let's remember
throughout the company.
And let's remember who is now tied to Skydance. That was actually part of the original acquisition of Pixar.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's got this kind of written all over it. And look, Skydance wouldn't be nearly as expensive as a Pixar would be at that time, right? I mean, you could probably get away with getting 1.5, 2, something like that, right? Modest fee, but that the talent that's there works. That could be an infusion of talent that you could, push through and kind of spread around the company in a not too dissimilar fashion that you did before.
Right.
Don't discount that.
And honestly, there was a point of time where when you had Iger, Staggs, and Lasseter all together in one room having a conference, of what to do about DCA 2.0 and everything, and it just like meshed well with how that they kind of bounced off of each other. And as I said, of how you feel about someone personally, it's a completely different ball game of how they tackle things professionally.
Right, 100%. And our buddy Tyler is asking a question for my friends. Which people within the company would you like to see take over the parks?
That's a big question.
Interesting. Actually, you know what? We talked about her a little bit ago, but if you can bring Catherine Powell back, I think she would be a good option for that. I mean,
I got one.
Do it.
Matt Ouimet.
Oh, good old Matt Ouimet. He did a fantastic job with Disneyland and its 50th anniversary. Yeah. Right now he's running Cedar Fair, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He is. But if you could pull him out with the auspices that say, hey, look, you do well here, you should be the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Now we might be talking. We might be cooking with gas. But that would be the only way that something like that would occur, right? Other than that, well, I mean, apparently from what we're hearing, the board did reach out to a couple of people who may have been in the company at one time, a certain Kevin Meyer and Tom Staggs.
Yes.
Which those two could be interesting, not just leading the Parks division, but also maybe as potential CEO candidates.
And I've been saying it for a real long time. Disney, that was one of the biggest mistakes they made when they were looking for a successor this first time around, was they were so hyper-focused on internal candidates. Look, Michael Eisner was not an internal candidate. Frank Wells was not an internal candidate. Like, get out of that mindset and pick someone who has the vision. You can train anybody on the Disney protocols, and you can train them on that. Get someone that has vision, knows how to negotiate. That's something you really can't train. And if it comes from another studio, if it comes from Paramount or it comes from Sony or it comes from Netflix, so be it. You can bring them in, and then once they get in, then you can train them on like the technicality bullshit that Disney does. But it's harder to train those natural leadership instincts and capabilities. And we've seen that with Chapek. He knew by the book what to do, but he didn't have that thing, that leadership thing, that vision. Some people have it, some people don't, right? So look for that wherever you can find it. But George, what do you think? Who would you want to see take over the parks?
First, I just have to say, and you heard it from OG himself, that Disney runs its business on technicality bullshit. So just have to throw that in.
Exactly. The technicality, you know what, the rule book, the handbook, whatever, but you can't teach leadership. It's really difficult, or vision. I mean, these are things that people are just kind of born with. They have that it factor. Hey, look, Bob Iger, as critical as I've been with him in the past, he has that it thing. He has that vision. He knows how to handle himself. He's got that leadership quality.
God, I sound like a Bob Iger dick rider.
But it's true. He does. Chapek didn't. Chapek screamed middle management. He really did. You're a smart guy, but he screamed middle management. Go ahead, George.
Oh, no, not a problem. I actually agree with Dre. Actually, that would have been the one person in my mind of how you would need someone that if it was someone internally already in the company, that he did such a fantastic, brilliant job of how he ran the 50th anniversary, that it was something that was and the cruise line, that it's like those moments where you can, that they are completely not endless, but it's like they live forever. Like you could literally go back and remember the moment of the 50th anniversary celebration and certain things, as Dre had mentioned with the cruise line. So I honestly think that if you gave him that position on a higher scale, I really think he would be very successful at it.
Interesting. Tanuki 91. Any chance the successor comes from outside the organization? This is actually big chance, Tanuki, because there was actually our article that dropped earlier today, New York Times. They're saying that it's looking actually kind of likely that they're going to be looking at external candidates, and this is really what they should be doing. Like I just mentioned just like 5 minutes ago, they should absolutely be looking at external candidates. And look, I mean, technically Tom Staggs would be an external candidate at this point. I mean, I would love to see Tom Staggs, I don't know.
See, his train's coming in the station there, George. It's coming in.
It's coming in.
The hype train.
But
Mr. Staggs, he's on there. He's
on there. But that could also include Peter Rice. Which, you were the first one to bring this up to me, that, hey, he didn't take a job anywhere else. Now, everybody gets a job somewhere else. The Hollywood feeds itself, all that kind of
Walter
stuff.
Hamada found a job like in 2 days. After Warner Brothers let him go, he's already at, Paramount now?
I
believe Paramount.
Yeah. right?
And Peter Rice was fired months ago. Why hasn't he been picked up by anybody?
And we also know from the Fortune article that I picked up here that this has been going on since the summer, right? So maybe Peter Rice didn't pick up a job because he knew,
right?
Maybe Iger might come a-calling, and maybe he would, take a little extended vacation while he primed himself for a potential CEO candidacy. That's kind of the undercurrent here. You can't discount Peter Rice. Peter Rice is out there. He was a guy that, Iger was looking at, and he, plot twist, Chapek, because Universal brings back the Woody Woodpecker. Okay.
Oh man, hey, Theme Park Wizard, you're a big Universal fan. How do you feel about Bob Chapek running Universal? Would you be down for that, dude? Put a one, put a one in the chat, Wizard, if you're down for Chapek running Comcast Universal.
So that's going to be an interesting response there. But look, I mean, you can't discount this possibility of Peter Rice, of Kevin Meyer, of I don't know, Zaslav. I don't think so.
Oh, that'd be weird.
That would be weird, right? But I mean, it's going to come from somewhere. The question is really who, and that's really the two things. What do you got there, George?
Wizards.
You should run Six Flags.
There you go. Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect.
That is. I mean, absolutely, he should absolutely run Six Flags. That's what they're trying to go, but can't get there. Chapek can get you there. But Iger has two directives here. One is to put the company to set the strategic direction for renewed growth for the company, right? So that's kind of reorganization, everything internally, getting them on a path of success, all that, right? Okay. Next thing is a successor. Those are the two missions that Iger has in front of him in these 2 years, right? And so don't be surprised if even very shortly after we have this discussion that you hear some names pop up and churned out and all that kind of stuff as they focus group it and put the media, feelers out there, engage audience. That's going to happen probably very, very soon because you have to bring somebody in, maybe incorporate him in an area of their organization in which he can kind of flex his, muscles, see whether or not he can handle the job at that level and so forth, and then groom him to be a successor. It's not a lot of time when you really think about it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. This is going to be a fascinating 2 years with him. Fascinating. And here's the other thing. This whole Iger thing is like, they just dropped like a nuclear bomb on everything, basically, with this whole Iger announcement. Because if you look, Bob Iger and Alan Horn are very close. And when Chapek was running Disney, look, we're not naive here. We know Iger was trying to help out David Zaslav. Hey, Alan Horn, go over to David Zaslav at Warner Brothers and be a consultant or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That was totally not a mistake there, right? Not by accident. Mm-hmm. But now this is where it gets interesting though, because now Alan Horn is a consultant for Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. But he's homies though with Bobby Iger, and now Iger's running Disney again. So is Horn going to be lured back to Disney? Now I'm not saying full time. Horn is a really old man. The poor guy is trying to retire like 5 times.
Yes. Yeah. Iger wants to sell his ass off to get him in any capacity at Disney. There's no question about that.
But maybe as a consultant though, because is he going to lure him away now from Warner? The math has changed, in the last few days.
As I said, you put him in there, then people would really have a deal on their hands because anyone who wants to get on into the parks, you're definitely kick that senior discount.
Yeah. Alan Horn's brilliant. Alan Horn is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's cool.
I would love to see him come back to Disney, but he's trying to retire. The poor guy.
I have a question for both of you. Now, what are the how likely would it be if, people are saying, Iger's going to be in 2 years, they keep on saying 2 years, but there was one article that I actually saw, it said a minimum of 2 years. I mean, Iger came back more times than Christ himself. I mean, it was like he has this thing like, I'm going to retire at this month, at this day, and this year, and his contract kept on getting extended. So I can't really foresee him coming back just for the 2 years. I mean, he's definitely going to be looking for a predecessor and what have you, but I think he's going to be sticking around for more than 2 years.
I'm gonna go balls to the walls here again. Guys like General Herpes, he never goes away and he keeps coming back, this Iger, man. He just can't, he just never goes away. And so, I think that's Iger. And I think Puck even said it, he just can't keep himself out of this. I mean, he was undermining JPEG this entire time, whether it be in the company or out. This whole time he's been undermining him. The whole time. It's all been leading to this moment here. And he just can't help himself. And I have to, I mean, yes, he's motivated by legacy. I wonder what else he's motivated by. It's not money. Like we said before on the show, he's getting a contract that is less than even the board even thought that he would come back for. So something is here.
Well, and to be fair, I think legacy is the big factor.
Absolutely.
But maybe he legitimately does have an affection for this company, and maybe he really does want to leave it in the best place possible.
Why do you leave?
I think that might be an element there. I mean, to be fair to him, I think that might be something that, it might be a factor.
If he cared, why did he leave?
Honestly,
that's true.
That's true. And in my opinion with that is I really honestly feel like, again, the way he represents with his morale and his image, and as you had mentioned, Dre, with his legacy, and he's not a big money type guy, how he schmoozes and everything. I think he really kind of knew what was to be handled during the pandy and the shutdown. And as I said earlier on in the show, no matter who would have taken those reins, whether it was Chapek, whether it was Horn, whether it was Rice, whether it would be whoever, they would be still in the sticky situation no matter what. So I think that Iger really didn't want to deal with that because it would have tarnished his image.
It would have, but this is why I say if he was really out for the company's best interest, he would have stayed.
No,
he would have sacrificed his legacy.
That's where he's in that moment. That's where he has that kind of shadiness to him.
I'm saying.
That it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's like he's out for himself when push comes to shove. Should he have stuck around long enough for the company? But it's like I'm like at the point where, again, because of what the stock numbers are and everything, the quarterly earnings, it's like now I really would just like to see the company thrive more, because it just seems like no matter what we hear about the company now, it just seems like it's a projectile downward.
And it's going to be in survival mode for a while there, George. It's not going to turn over on a dime.
Yeah. And that's what worries me.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. And two things, actually. You're absolutely right in terms of the way he left, and I've said this many, many times on many, many videos, the way Bob Iger left, when right before the lockdowns hit, February 2020, Chapek, it's all you, man. It's all you. That really did kind of telegraph to the world that Iger was about his legacy. Okay, that's fine. Absolutely. But that turned me off personally, because I really did, prior to that, really did believe that Iger did have Disney's best interest at heart. Maybe I was naive, but I really did believe that. And when he did that, it really kind of took me back. I don't know. It really left a bad taste in my mouth, for sure.
This guy postpones retirement, 3-4 times, right? Looking for the perfect, gotta set myself up, successor, all that kind of jazz. And then right when it looks, I have evidence to suggest that the internals suggested that the world was going to shut down and that Disney was going to be heavily affected by it. So as soon as that's over the horizon, he jumps as soon as he can, postponing his retirement multiple times. But first sign of trouble, he jumped ship immediately. That told me, okay, this guy wasn't all he was cracked up to be. So now he's coming back in here. Now that, JPEG was put through it, not just with the internal problems, right, but the external problems that he had to face with this company. He went through all that hell and anguish. He's going to get a golden parachute, I'm not going to lie, but he went through all that hell and anguish. And now when, everything's back online, theaters are operational again, parks are operational again, everything's kind of zooming with a few, a few asterisks and caveats, right? Of course.
But look who
now it's
decides
like,
the ones to come
okay,
back.
like the keys again, and he got it. And it's just like,
got it.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
He is a schmoozer. He knows how to talk his way into a position. He has that way about him.
Well, he's honestly brilliant. I mean, Bob Iger, whether you love him, you don't like him, you don't like his thing, you don't like the IP focus, whatever you think about Bob Iger.
Yep.
We all have to agree the dude is freaking brilliant. He maneuvers this stuff very, very smart.
I think the board felt that Chapek was, he was having some issues, having some problems. It wasn't going to get overturned. He was losing confidence from people around him and so forth, right? And in any other company under any other circumstances, this would have been a huge instability factor, right? And could topple over organizations. I've seen it happen before. But the only guy that they could have changed out a CEO with would have been with Iger, because he is a stabilizing force himself.
Right.
And he is respected within the industry and so forth. So, I mean, from the board's perspective, this was a smart move if, in fact, Chapek was losing it and you felt that he could not be redeemed no matter what. That being said, though, I mean, this is the guy who set Chapek up to fail.
So that does make you think that, God forbid, if something else occurs, is he going to flip at a dime and then
that's interesting
and then be out again?
That's interesting. I don't think so, though, because there is more. There is so much riding on this right now for him. The expectations for him to turn this around and be successful is through the freaking roof. He cannot tread water. He cannot disappoint. He's got to knock out a home run. He knows it. I mean,
like
this is do or die for him with legacy.
Right, but I mean, like after the home run, after he kind of puts in his time, could he flip in a moment's time and say, you know what? I did my piece that I felt like I did enough. I'm wiping my hands. I'm out.
Maybe, but I don't think there's enough time for all that. I think once he gets the ship kind of going in the right direction and he gets that person to come in and succeed him, it's mission accomplished. So once he hit his home run, he's going to leave anyway, I think.
I mean, as I said, but I personally feel like he's definitely going to be there more than 2 years.
Absolutely. Oh, dude. Yeah, absolutely. There's no way. He kept renewing his contract before, like 3 times. There's no way it's going to be 2 years. I'm telling you right now, he will absolutely go beyond the 2 years.
And I mentioned this to you on the phone earlier, OG, when I said in 2 years is also going to be the next D23 Expo. Is he really going to deny walking on that stage again and everybody having a standing ovation for him?
He'll include this in his book. George, I know how it's going to go down. He'll include this in his next book, right? He'll write about getting up on that stage at D23 Expo 2024, right? Getting on stage and, having all the fans just love him, congratulate him, the cheers, the raucous sounds. And he writes in his memoir saying, that was the moment I knew that I had to extend my term as Disney's CEO right there. That's how it's going to go. I swear to God, that's how it's going to go.
Remember, folks, you heard it right here from Dr. Dre himself. Remember D23 Expo 2024, after it happens, that's going to give him the excuse to say, you know what, I want to extend my contract. It just gave me the feels. It gave me the moment, that the roaring of the crowd. You definitely heard it from Mr. Vashkai here on OG55.
Now Tyler down below, this is interesting. Okay.
Yep.
This is interesting. Now, I'm actually, real quick before I read his comment, I'm actually kind of bullish on Iger coming back in the sense that I do think it will stabilize the company, and I do think it's going to kind of calm the fans down a little bit. We got a little bit of a TDS situation going on with Chapek for a while there with the bald man bad. It was getting a little out of control. So I think Iger's going to definitely calm the waters, and I think that he will probably be successful because he has a lot riding on it. But if you are sick of politics in Disney, this is not your guy. Nope. Chapek was your guy. Bob Iger is not your guy. This guy, I mean, Bob Iger is very much political, and he does not hide it.
You saw the post by Christopher Rufo, which was just
what an idiot.
I mean,
what is he smoking?
What a misread on this. Like, it's crazy.
So for those of you at home that are not aware, Christopher Rufo, he's a conservative like pundit, I guess, right? Or something?
he's kind of like I don't know, insider, investigative journalist. You could say. I mean, he was the guy that
like a Tim
leaked
Pool?
out the. Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, he was almost like a Project Veritas, almost. He was the guy that leaked out, for example, what is it, Reimagine Tomorrow videos that you saw on conservative outlets and so forth about, all that kind of stuff. And he also worked hand in hand with DeSantis, actually, to bring a lot to light regarding the Disney organization, how it conducts business in Florida and so forth, and the whole Florida thing and all that. I mean, he literally just Christopher Rufo's right next to DeSantis when signing the bill.
Oh my God!
That strips, the RCAD from Disney effective June of 2023 or whatever. He's right there. Okay. He comes up with this tweet saying, "Oh, Chapek was behind all of the politicization. He was pushing for this, pushing for that," and it was just like, "Whoa!"
He actually said
what?
He actually said that firing Chapek was a rebuke on woke politics. Chapek is not woke. Chapek will play ball to make money. The dude is not woke. He does not care. If you guys remember, the first instinct that Bob Chapek had with that whole Florida bill was to stay the hell out of it. He only got involved because he had all this pressure. He didn't want to get involved. Bob Iger is very much an activist in a lot of ways, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. He wants to do that. He has a value system he believes in. He wants to advocate for that. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But he is way more. He is way more upfront with that.
And especially since if he wants to try to get back with Reedy Creek, then he's going to have to play ball in some form or another with the politics.
Well, that's a whole other thing too with the Reedy Creek, but we'll get there.
That's the thing. Bob Iger kicks that whole thing off. It was not in Disney's. It was not up to Disney's responsibility in order to say anything about that situation until Bob Iger positioned the company to do that, right? Here's the other thing, too. Kareem Daniels, the big thing about this new Hollywood Reporter piece spilling the news, right, that Kareem Daniels was fired, one of the reasons why people were so against Kareem Daniels is because that was part of Chapek's moderation strategy in order to implement changes to the content delivery system and content creation system that would have de-emphasized activism and all that kind of stuff, right? The kind of the woke stuff, right, that you see from these films and movies. That was part of the structure that Chapek had formed, and it was all around Kareem Daniels. He was at the heart of it. That's why he had to be removed. That's why he was a big problem and a thorn in the side of a lot of the Hollywood establishment and so forth. Christopher Rufo, he's just... I got the tweet right here. I'll go ahead and read it to you real fast, okay?
Go ahead.
Breaking. Disney has fired CEO Bob Chapek, who pushed critical race theory and gender ideology in the company's programming and employee training. Huge rebuke of woke leadership. After Chapek's disastrous fight with Governor Ron DeSantis, Disney Plus domestic subscriber growth collapsed. Public approval dropped and the stock price plummeted. Other causes contributed: economy, streaming saturation, etc. But timing suggests they paid a price for the DeSantis fight. Will be interesting to see if Iger, who is also left-wing, dials back on the politics. I will be reaching out to my sources within the company in the coming weeks to see the internal cultural shifts. It's going to shift in a direction you're not thinking there, Christopher.
No, Rufo needs to. I don't really know Rufo, but from what I gather, he needs to stay in his lane a little bit. Exactly. Entertainment reporting isn't his thing. Yeah. I mean, for him to think Chapek is the woke guy and Iger is like some moderate who's coming in to like de-woke the company is ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand that. And it doesn't matter what side you fall on with this politically. Yeah. In no world is that reality. Okay, and there's no multiverse, or that is even true. Okay,
no,
this is ridiculous.
It is, and it's a complete misread. And look, OG, I think you said it best, right? Obviously, Rufo has a bias. Obviously, he's trying to make something happen. Well, he kind of undermined that by pinning this all on Chapek to begin with, because that gave the fodder for members of the right, for example, to lose faith in Chapek as well, when in fact he was their best chance in moderation of the company, which apparently he was going to do, and that might have also been why they got rid of him at the time that they did, that this rebellion even occurred in the first place, because maybe he was going to moderate the company, and certain people didn't like that, right? Well, now, guess what? The activist creatives, they are now been empowered by this move with Iger at the top again, and with this kind of organizational structure that Iger left off with when he left back in February of 2020.
And that's actually a very high possibility, and all they were waiting was just for the ball to drop, the correct ball to drop, and that was the fourth quarterly earnings, and that's where they kind of honed in on that, where there could have been more too of getting rid of Chapek for a bigger, longer agenda.
It's interesting. It's interesting, but look, I am, like I said before, I am very cautiously optimistic with Iger coming back. I think there's a lot of upside to this. I mean, the stock went up like a lot. That's what I mean today. That obviously investors are kind of on board with this. I think that like he will improve morale, because you're dealing with Californian Hollywood types. They're gonna like Iger. They just are. The morale of the studio will go up. Cast members will probably like it more. All that's great. But if you think Iger's coming in to depoliticize Disney, you are out of your freaking mind. That is not a thing. That is not a thing.
The people who were fighting for the politicization of Disney, he's going to put them in positions of power to do what they wanted to do in the first place. That's what's going to happen. Now, hey, it might be an Iger directive. It might not be. It doesn't matter, because the people that he had in there that were Iger that were loyal to him will be recognized going forward. So that's off the table as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Splash Mountain and everything, that's going forward.
But Dre, you have to look on the bright side. At least we still get the Bayou Mist.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because Iger, being Iger, maybe he throws another $100 million on the pile. He might. Now, what I would like, this is Iger fancied himself as a creative, even though he wasn't, right? And he would regularly get involved with projects as it related to Imagineering and so forth. Is it possible that Iger, who's kind of in tune with the audience still, I think a little bit, looks at what's going on with Splash Mountain and going, the hell are we doing? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. You don't think so?
Like he's going to cancel the project?
No, not cancel it, but just let's get back to making this a Princess and the Frog attraction rather than, the co-op thing and all that. Is it possible?
That's possible. Yeah, because he's going to want everything on his watch these next 2 years. He's going to want them to be home runs. He's going to want to really look, he's coming in to fix things.
Could that have
his legacy's on the line. So, yeah, he might.
Could that have been why nothing has been brought out in the first place? It was just kind of put on lingo just to kind of give people the answers at the time that they wanted to hear, because they had a longer expectation that Iger would return and then could create something a little bit more.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. Look at George.
George really thinking right here. I'd have to really think about that. I mean, I suppose everything's I mean, what the speculation is that Splash Mountain might be part of the cuts, part of this task force and so forth. And it's like, well, this doesn't really make sense. Doesn't really increase capacity. It doesn't really sell any more merchandise. We can easily have a Tiana thing over here. It doesn't need to be replace Splash Mountain. I don't think so. Do we need to spend this capital investment in this way? No. Like it kind of like went down that line for me in my head. So it kind of made sense. Like, okay, well, maybe this is when Splash Mountain doesn't necessarily go forward. Now, there's no way. The thing I'm kind of hoping for is that maybe Iger, maybe George, maybe you're right, maybe he reassesses this and goes, okay, maybe we can bring it back to this being a proper Princess and the Frog attraction.
Could it delay
that people
it?
Want to see.
Could it delay it where Splash Mountain hangs on just a little bit longer?
Possible.
It's possible. I think it's very, very possible.
Now here's the thing that I've been noticing, and this is what I've been kind of talking about like a minute ago. Michael Meets Mouse. Michael, if I'm not mistaken, Michael, brother, I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but from what I understand, Michael is a Walt Disney World CM, is what he mentioned the last time.
Okay.
But he's saying he said here the CMs were going nuts when the news came out. And I've been hearing the same thing even at the studio side. I've been hearing like people reporting that like the morale is already up, because again, and look, it's not about like your personal view of Bob Iger. I know a lot of conservatives don't like him and that, but you have to understand this is not this is Burbank, California. And these are people that are very, very progressive. California. So I think that Iger will definitely have a positive impact with morale. I do think they were down in the doldrums with Chapek. I think with Bob Iger, they're going to be very, very happy. Alia also mentions this as well. She says employees are happy Iger is back for the most part, as Michael Meets Mouse mentions, and that cannot be denied. I acknowledge that helped me to accept this more. That's interesting, Alia. Yeah, I think that there is this sort of energy right now where they're happy he's back. I think Chapek, no secret, was not a well-liked guy amongst employees, cast members, even fans. I think that there is a little bit of like that, Well,
and the one thing that I have to mention to the notion against Chapek, unfortunately, is the cut of Magical Express. Because for me, especially being a Walt Disney World person and traveling outside of the state, that was something crucial that was part of the Walt Disney World experience. And I think it was Doc Hart that mentioned it earlier about, is there any chance that Magical Express might return? And I really do hope so, because I even tweeted out to Iger on Twitter. And that was the first thing that I thought of that came to my mind was, congratulations, welcome back. Can you bring back Magical Express, please, if nothing else?
A couple things. One is, was it John Hench that termed the coin the art of reassurance? Is that correct?
I believe it was John Hench.
Yeah, because we talk about a reassurance of architecture and so forth. Okay, well, Iger knows the art of reassurance, right? And so I think he can have, like I said, that stabilizing force, right? That reassuring kind of like everything's going to be okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's definitely reverberating throughout the company right now. We'll see how long that lasts. Like Lorena Creel actually said earlier, the honeymoon phase is in effect, right? We'll see how long this actually lasts. When it comes to like Magical Express and so forth, the difficulty is from Iger's perspective. He's got much bigger fish to fry than Walt Disney World. So I think expectations should be in accordance with that. I mean, look, you have to make streaming profitable, or you change your strategy in order to make it profitable, right? I mean...
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think, honestly, priorities have to come first. Right. I just say in time, at some point, they need to have something it doesn't even have to come back in that form of Magical Express, but something that can kind of have that, because again, he wants to appease the guests, he wants to appease the people, and I think at some point or another he's going to have to come up with something.
Well, it was during Iger's admin when I heard from sources inside the company at the time saying, well, we don't want to be nakedly greedy, right? Now that veneer was definitely scratched off a little bit with Chapek for sure, but I think Iger would be receptive to bring that back a little bit. So that's kind of the caveat there. Yeah. But I'm sorry, OG.
And that's a great point. And this was actually something that Mickey Views was mentioning on his live stream last night, where like Bob Iger understands the brand a little better than Chapek. And I think that kind of plays to that, where Chapek is like, oh, we're a business. No, this is the yield. And he sees nothing wrong in that, where Bob Iger is like, we can't be nakedly greedy. We kind of have to have a little bit of a veneer, and kind of a little bit of a show. And it's a show. Disney's been a business for decades. It's in the business of making money. It always has been.
Show business, right?
Right. It's show business. And,
the pendulum swung business. Now it's going to swing towards show. I think that's...
Right.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Now, Alessio Pasquale, friend of the channel. Alessio, how you doing, brother? He says, hang on, OG55. Chapek had one fan, and that would be me. Alessio, that's great. I mean, look, Alessio is a big film fan. Okay.
Yeah.
And he has been advocating for more mature content on Disney Plus. And he feels And chime in, Alessio, if I'm misrepresenting anything. I mean, you know, but, basically from what I gather, Alessio feels that Disney Plus should have more of that adult content on there, and he feels like Chapek is the best way to kind of get that done. He doesn't really feel like Bob Iger is going to do that. And Alessio, you're probably right on that. I think Iger is far more hesitant for that stuff. I think Bob Chapek really didn't care. He was going to do that. I think that once that Hulu thing, which is a whole nother can of worms, by the way, but once they fully own Hulu, I think Chapek was prepared to put the Hulu tile on Disney Plus and call it a day.
Yep.
I don't know if that's going to happen anymore under Bob Iger. So that changes that equation as well.
Because I think he was a little bit hesitant towards that when initially asked when Disney Plus was launching about Hulu and Hulu integration. He was a little bit like, I think they're separate products and all that kind of stuff. That might happen. The other thing too, I mean, I think like the more adult Marvel stuff might stay on there, password protected and all that, because even Iger has said, it's like, well, in order to bring a character like Deadpool into the MCU, we have to be consistent with that character. So I'd be open to the idea of maintaining that now that we own that brand through the Fox acquisition. I think so. So he's kind of alluded to like that remaining and being a thing, right? And so I think in that context, I think it might be. Everything else, though, really, who knows? And that also includes ESPN and the sports betting thing, which is another thing that you have to include in this.
Right. And how do those negotiations, by the way, turn out with Comcast? Because now it'll be Bobby Iger negotiating that Hulu.
True.
There's so much. That's why I'm saying, everybody, stay tuned. We have so much freaking content.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
There's so many angles to this story. It's like redonkulous.
Oh my God! ESPN,
and it's just going to keep growing.
Disney Plus, RCD.
And it's just going to keep growing. Honestly, I think as each day that goes by, we're going to get another little piece of information that's going to just leak more out.
Absolutely, and I think, and I think that the next thing I think tomorrow is, I mean, look, if Josh DiMaggio really did get the pink slip, we're probably going to know about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
and that's going to make for a big news cycle and all that. So, and I mean, Kareem Daniels, happened pretty fast. I think I was reading a tweet by Captain John D earlier where he's been involved in some of these mergers, acquisitions, layoffs, and so forth, and at kind of a big time premier level. And it takes time to negotiate those contracts and negotiate that leave and so forth. That happened very quickly. I would assume that there is going to be some pace with this, so we might know a lot more even at the end of this week. It might be a completely different thing.
Yeah, and Ali makes a great point here. Roberts is now regretting he did not negotiate with Chapek when he had the chance regarding Hulu. This is the thing, and I think I mentioned this to you on the phone earlier today, Dre. A lot of these other studios, I think Zaslav and I think Brian Roberts smelt blood in the water with Chapek. Oh, look at this idiot, right? We got this. Well, now Iger's back. Papa Iger is back, and it's like I think they're like sitting up going, "Oh shit."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
From a rival standpoint, Ali is right. I don't think Brian Roberts is thrilled with this.
No. I mean, I don't think like the big corporations that compete with Disney, I don't think any of them are thrilled with this. No. Zaslav, Roberts, Paramount, Sony. I don't think any of them are okay because I mean, when Iger left, they were top dogs at the annual box office. They were. Yeah. I mean, it was insane to see them dominate the space like that. Now with Iger back, it's like, I mean, this is a guy that's ate our lunch for the last few years before he left, and now he's back.
Well, listen to the Zaslav quarterly earnings calls. It's like a love letter to freaking Bob Iger. The whole thing is like what Iger did. We want to emulate what Iger did, Iger did. And now he's running Disney. It's like, oh man. True. I mean, it's crazy. It's Epic Berserker said, kind of touched upon what we talked about earlier. Will Alan Horn return now? Yeah, I know. Alan Horn, this poor guy, tried to retire so many times, and he's just in so hot. He's like in hot demand. We talked about that Epic a little bit ago, but I mean, probably not full time. And maybe he'll be a consultant for Disney like he is for Warner. But that's probably like the best we're gonna get, I think.
At this point, you can't discard anything, right? I think it's absolutely plausible that he comes back in some capacity. Yeah, it's plausible to me. Just looking at it, just kind of outside looking in, that Horn stays where he's at. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, this is interesting. You did have Alan Horn's, I don't know, rival or he didn't necessarily like the guy when he was at Disney. Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, right? He has now been moved into position in Warner Brothers Discovery's hierarchy to handle DC. Well, Alan Horn didn't. I mean, he was the guy that announced that, hey, he has no association with Disney Company when that whole thing actually went down.
Right.
Maybe it's like, you know what, Iger's over here. You're gonna keep this guy. Maybe I just go over back again. Who knows?
And that's why this whole Bob Iger thing, it changes so much. Like just across.
It just doesn't affect. It just doesn't affect Iger replacing Chapek. This is going to impact everybody's involvement in the company, whether it is big, small, top tier, low tier. Yep. Everyone is going to get impacted by this.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And that's why I'm like, what happens with WDI? A lot of talent left the door because I don't like GMR or Chapek, what they're doing over there. Well, now big Papa Iger's in town. And a lot of people saw that as a re-empowerment of WDI during the heydays. Well, maybe people want to get on the ground floor again or come back or whatever. Who knows? This has huge implications across all divisional sectors of the company.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild, dude.
It's crazy.
I don't even know. I'm still processing this whole thing.
I know.
I mean,
I took most of my night last night and most of my day today to process what is actually going on.
Right.
It gets wilder.
And while we're still processing this, then we're going to get more information before we're even as comfortable even with what's going on right now.
By the way, did any additional news hit, by the way, that we're missing?
Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe we should check the Twitters.
I'll go through it.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, our buddy Showcase of Wishes says Walt Disney World West and Walt Disney World East. I mean, yeah, that would be kind of cool just to have two home bases, right? And, that was, I don't know. That was kind of the plan when they did the Lake Nona thing, but it seemed more like they were just kind of like, I don't know, kind of phasing out Glendale more than having two home bases. But if they could have two, one in Glendale and one in Florida, and each prospective WDI facility would work on each resort or whatever, right? Or maybe the Imagineering East would work mostly on Walt Disney World and the cruise lines, and then Glendale would work mostly on Disneyland Resort and maybe Tokyo, more Pacific stuff. That would be really cool, but I don't know. I really, honestly, Showcase, I don't really know what the future of that Lake Nona facility is, because, like I said before, Bob Iger he's in there now to boost morale. He's in there now to smooth. He's in there now to look good for the talent and the people behind the scenes. He wants to boost all this up, and the single easiest way to do that would be to cancel that Lake Nona move. I'm telling you, those Imagineers do not want to move.
No, they don't. They do not.
They do not. They were very against it. I would definitely look. Listen, if Iger remains around 2 years, right? Let's say if at this point, right?
2 years ish.
Very easy to delay that and not have to deal with it while you're back in the hot seat. So I think that might be likely. Sam Carter actually puts out a tweet with a poll. Sam Carter, who a friend of the channel, I believe he's come on OG55.
He has.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good. Okay, this Twitter. Do you want Josh gone? 241 votes. 39% say no. 61% say yes.
Do you have that on your screen? Can I share it?
Oh, let me get it up here.
Get it up. I'm going to share that. That's very, very interesting. How the tide has turned on Daddy Josh in the matter of a year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
is unbelievable, you guys.
And me personally, I think that really, to me, doesn't have anything to do whether it would be Iger or Chapek still in the helm seat as CEO. I just think for me, DeMauro put it on himself that he just, I'm sorry, didn't do anything. I'm sorry. As chairman of parks, I have not seen no results come out of him whatsoever of what was going to impact the parks in a positive way.
Right. No, yeah, it's all style and no substance. And eventually that veneer is gonna people are gonna see through it eventually. And look, I mean, I don't know. I just think he needs to get a little more serious about actually like implementing some of the stuff he's seeing in the parks and actually trying to advocate for positive change. And I just don't see it. I see him as a yes man who smoozes with guests to look good. And that's not, for me, that's not good enough. I'd rather have him not do the smooze thing and be more like efficient and more effective in the office. If I had to pick one or the other. I mean, that's just me personally. What do you think, Chewy? I agree.
Yeah. Captain John D, that's great, Paul. It shows the veil is wearing thin. Absolutely. It does show that the veneers aren't necessarily as influential as they may have been earlier in this tenor here. I think you hit a couple. You can kill a couple birds with one stone, right? Get rid of Josh, modify, make some changes to the parks division, right? And to the guest experience that, make Iger look incredibly good. Get somebody in there who you can groom as the next CEO. Bada boom, bada bing. You've accomplished 3 things in one foul swoop.
There we go. And Sam Chat is asking, hey, OG crew, will Iger find a way to pay off the Fox debt, as quickly as possible? From what I understand, they're actually paying it off pretty fast. I think they're down to like 40-something billion, which is okay. We're getting there. But
I don't think it'll be as aggressive, maybe.
Right. Maybe not as aggressive. Maybe he'll.
I don't think okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I don't think he's looking to extract as much money from every single division in order to pay off that debt. But go ahead, OG.
No, absolutely. And actually, if I were to advise Iger, I would really look at the Fox library. What do you need and what do you don't need?
Well, and also too that the sales for those Marge Simpson tennis shoes, the sneakers,
those are dope.
That'll do it.
Those are dope. Yeah, those are dope. Those are on Twitter. Those are really hot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is. I think there was revenue, but like Chapek was never going to position the company where it was going to be like an economic powerhouse that it was before in the Iger era. I mean, some of that, like peak Iger, was really insane to witness and watch. I don't think Chapek was ever going to bring about that. So I think what he tried to do was just collect all, like extract all money from all areas as possible, which isn't sustainable, I don't think. With Iger back in the helm, it's possible that we get out of this survival mode and that we get back to all out success mode. I don't quite envision that in 2 years' time. However, if that happens, if the company is super successful, they can pay off that debt and really, really easily from that point on. But it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that debt now that a creative force like Iger is back in the helm.
Yeah, and Alia says, recent reveal, the debt is not as bad as perceived. Comcast has more debt, and Disney's debt ratio isn't too bad. And what Alia is referring to is actually a recent Variety article.
Yeah,
where they kind of show. And this actually, I called Dre. I called him like immediately when I saw it. I'm like, Dre, I'm kind of shocked at this graph because we've been like on this channel, myself included, I've been railing against this Fox deal. Like, how could Disney spend $70 billion on Fox that they're straddling the company? And then I look on this chart and Comcast has $100 billion in debt.
Right.
And I'm like, this is crazy. And I guess even like the Ollie was saying that the debt ratio and the cash on hand and all that isn't even that great either at Comcast. This surprises me. This really surprises me.
Even Discovery has a higher
Discovery.
Disney.
That's why Zaslav has been so aggressive, is to get that debt load down. I mean, here's the thing. For a telecommunications company, 100 billion, who let's say a telecommunications company who dabbles in studio, 100 billion is I guess going great in some ways. I mean, look, when you have clientele in North America who affords you, I think, like at least $50 billion a year just from telecommunication fees, you can kind of have a debt like this. I think I'm still doing some research into it, but that's kind of those numbers. Warner Brothers Discovery, some of that is still carried on from when like Warner Brothers and Time Warner owned Six Flags and stuff like that. Oh my God. So
wow.
So that has been there for a while. AT&T could never get it down. That's why Zaslav has been empowered in order to do so, because I believe AT&T still has shares. So like that's kind of part of that process, but you're right. I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery has a lot more debt than well, I mean, not so much more, but their debt is comparable to Disney. I think the thing about Disney is like I think the cash flow as a studio, I think that really hurts, and that's why they're on that list as one of the highest studios on in that chart.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And a friend, Epic Berserker, saying after that shit show D23 presentation from Josh, I believe he should be let go.
Yeah,
it was a
shit. It really was. It was a shit show. It really was. And as I said before, earlier on in the show, I think that's where fans kind of saw that side of Demaro of saying, you know, we're constantly getting this same repetitive notion from him, which is absolutely nothing.
It was
he didn't deliver nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was I expecting it to be like a big blowout where it's like this massive e-ticket attraction? No, you know, the company's still trying to find its drive to get back on its feet, but at least give us something rather than just standing up there with a pretty face. I think
a lot of fans felt that with some of the nickel diming practices that we've been seeing, with a lot of like you know, a reduction in guest experience in some level. I'm not saying that was for everybody, but I'm saying for a large contingent of the most vocal, they were having those issues, and I think a lot of people felt that, okay, we're going through all this heartache, but we're going to see investment on this end, and when that didn't happen, then the connection started to be made like maybe Josh isn't as great as we all thought he was, and I think that's where the mask really, the veneer, let's say, really began to slip.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to my 2 hour and 6 minute crew, I want to thank everybody for staying with us. This is look, the news cycle right now for Disney is out of control. Out of freaking control. We got a lot more content coming up in regards to this Bob Iger thing, because there was a lot more to discuss. But I think we're going to close it out. But it wouldn't feel right though. It wouldn't feel right if we closed it out and didn't give our buddy Showcase what he's here for. And we know what he's here for. It's that Carl's Jr. drop. So Showcase, we're going to close it out, but this one's for you, buddy.
Always makes me want to crave a burger.
There it is. He said he's been waiting 2 hours for this. 2 hours and 8 minutes for this.
Tremendous, OG. Tremendous. Stupendous. That was amazing. Can't believe it. The best ever. Ask Sean Handy. He'll tell you the best ever. Thank you.
Exactly. The best ever. And then here we go with the little emoji.
There you go.
There we go. But everybody in the chat today, Captain John D, Theme Park Wizard Showcase, Alia, ClickNet, Theme Park Casual, Stuart Rayfield, M. Dudley, Michael Meets Mouse, so many. I mean, everybody, we had a fantastic show today. Fantastic show today. It was a lot of fun. Talking Bob Iger, talking Bob Chapek. Really, like, nobody Nobody brings the corporate drama like Disney. They never disappoint. And they have a history of doing this, okay? Or even back in the 80s, right? With Ron Miller and all that. Always drama. And I love it. It's this beautiful chaos that Disney has that makes it so special. And we love Disney.
Oh,
but
as Alia said, this is just the start of the news cycle, so expect more of this for sure.
Absolutely. But we're going to close it out. Producer Dre. Dr. Dre, the DA, host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on OG55. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, my friend.
All right. I think, okay, yeah. You know what? I think the best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. It's going to be right there, just like it's spelled on the screen right there in front of you. Type that in, and it should pop up for all the, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, for all the
robust
discussion right there. I'm telling you, and Slimer right there, put the bust in robust. I like it. I love it. Little Carl's Jr. reference. That's
giggity,
great.
giggity.
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, I mean, it has been, it's been very robust, guys. I mean, it's been crazy over there on Twitter. So definitely check it out. And send me anything that you see. I love sharing it. Love talking about it. It's great.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, OG. You were saying?
No, I was going to say, speaking of robust, our friend Christine Wastelands McCarthy. I mean, she's a lot more gangster than I expected. Turning that on Chapek like that, she's a gangster.
She was looking out for her own waistlines, and she had a lever to pull that was well, didn't have to do with the parks. That was very impressive. Do not seriously, don't turn your back on her. She might knife in the back. Anyway, yes. So the other thing too, if you like content like this, you absolutely should subscribe. Oh, gee, do you have that great Walt drop for me?
I do. Walt, let us know what's up.
And there's the biggest bargain of all.
And that's not just referring to Christine Wastelands McCarthy. That's referring to this show here on OG55. Please subscribe where you can find my show on there, Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice, news, and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Yes.
Right there.
Yes. And I don't know how long this will actually be able to be like relevant. So I want to play it now and get use out of it before I probably ultimately have to delete it. But Chapek, take it away, buddy.
Apologize for not being the ally that you needed me to be.
There we go. We only have the shelf life on some of these Chapek drops are, they're going to expire pretty soon. Yeah. So I want to make sure we get that in, down below. D23, the family man, host of the Citrus Corner Show. George, if you let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, my friend.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. If you want to interact with me, and maybe we'll do lunch, we'll go to Carl's Jr., hit me up on Twitter at Disney George. You could also find me on the new podcast, A Walk with Walt, with some of my friends and a certain somebody's sister who is a friend of the channel as well.
Who is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, she really is. Definitely check us out on Apple, on iTunes, on Stitcher, all that good stuff. And of course, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Thank you very much.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Justin Doyle says here, good show, but I disagree with your view on Josh, but that's a discussion for another time. And you know what, Justin, we all respect that. And that's what we love about doing these shows is that, hey, you know what? Sometimes we don't all agree, and that's all good. And that's what makes it like kind of fun because, hey, you make your point, we make ours, we kind of feed off each other. It's a fun time. So, Justin, it's all good. You don't agree with the Josh stuff. We all totally respect that. Absolutely.
No issue. In fact, if you drop a comment in there, we'll probably address it. We'll
absolutely
we can debate it. We love points of view that don't agree with us. We love contrarian points of view. We love all that kind of stuff. I didn't know that Ali is reporting that Christine Wastelands McCarthy knew martial arts.
Woo!
I didn't know that. Oh man, you better watch out, and she don't even need a knife. She gets you.
Well, that's why when she has to cut down those portions, that's what you call a lamb chop.
Good.
I saw the funniest tweet, by the way.
Like this? Lamb chop? Or wrong lamb chop?
Wrong lamb chop. Wrong.
Okay.
Wrong.
I saw the funniest tweet, by the way. Funniest tweet. It was by Trashed Disney Glimpses. Trashed at Disney, right? Very funny guy. Responding to Kristen Winston's McCarthy leading the rebellion against JPEG, right? He said she wasn't happy about the portions he had at those executive lunch buffets. That made me laugh. Harder than initiative.
And Epic Berserker, we have another request for the Carl's Jr. drop showcase. Your lucky day, buddy. We're getting 2 in 1. As Bob Iger would say, we're not doing 1, we're doing 2. We're doing 2. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna close it out with the Carl's Jr. drop. Thank you, everybody. It has been an absolute honor. More content coming up. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye now.